In the 10th year of our relationship, when John discovered I was pregnant, he gifted me a luxurious mansion worth million, a place meant for me to rest and nurture our child. But behind the grand gesture lay years of deception. For a decade, I had devoted myself completely to John, sacrificing my promising medical career and independence for what I believed was love. Yet in my heart, I always felt something was missing. The way his eyes never truly met mine when he said, "I love you." The way he'd disappear for days, claiming work emergencies. The way his parents looked down on me, treating me like an outsider who had somehow tricked their perfect son. What John didn't know was that I remembered everything from my past life, how I had given up everything for him, only to discover on my deathbed the hundreds of love letters he had written to Emma, his first love. "You are the purest moonlight in my heart," he'd written to her. "I cannot bear to let the mundane world stain you." Meanwhile, I had died alone, unable to afford medical treatment because he had secretly transferred all his wealth to her. As I stared at the positive pregnancy test in my hand, memories of my past life's suffering washed over me. I remembered our child. How, despite all my love and care, they had grown to despise me, standing coldly by my hospital bed as I took my final breath. This time would be different. This time, I wouldn't waste my life on someone who didn't deserve me. With unwavering determination, I scheduled an abortion and applied to a prestigious medical program in America. When the doctor asked if I was certain about terminating the pregnancy, I nodded without hesitation. I knew this child would grow up healthy and strong, just like his father. But I also knew how the story would end. Not again. This time, I would write my own ending. The luxurious kitchen tiles felt cold beneath my feet as I stood watching John cook porridge, not for me, but for Emma, who was due to arrive any minute. In 10 years, he had never once cooked for me, claiming he hated being in the kitchen. Yet here he was, arranging jasmine flowers in a vase, the same flowers he always said gave him allergies. "Where have you been?" "The house is a mess," he snapped without looking up. "We have guests coming over soon. How do you expect me to entertain them in this state?" I didn't rush to apologize like I usually would. I simply said, "I'm not feeling well. Didn't want to clean." The doorbell rang, and John practically flew to answer it, bumping into my stomach without even noticing. Pain shot through my abdomen as I steadied myself against the counter. Then she walked in, Emma striding confidently on designer heels that clicked against the marble floor. "Sophia, it's been a while," she smiled, tilting her head. "Wow, you've aged so much. A woman really should take better care of herself." My chest tightened as I watched them together. The way he gently served her food, the way he slipped an expensive ring onto her finger that had been hidden beneath the flowers. When she complained about her nails being too long, he immediately began peeling walnuts for her. Later that night, I discovered a post from Emma on social media. She had tagged a luxury hotel as her location. In the picture, her bare skin was marked with hickeys, and beside her were dozens of designer shopping bags. The hands wrapped possessively around her waist were John's. The final straw came when Emma deliberately dropped my treasured ceramic mug, a gift from orphan children I had once helped. Before I could react, she screamed theatrically, claiming I had hurt her hand. John's eyes filled with rage as he grabbed my wrist and shoved it straight into a pot of boiling water. The pain was unimaginable, but worse was the realization that after 10 years, he could hurt me so casually for someone else. As I treated my severely burned hand, tears streamed down my face. This wasn't love, it was imprisonment. And I was finally breaking free. The morning after my hand was burned, I went to the hospital alone. My skin was red and blistered, but the pain in my heart hurt more than my hand ever could. I made 2 decisions that day. First, I went through with the abortion. Second, I sent my application to the top medical program in America. Both approvals came quickly. That night, I dumped all my old clothes in the trash. I realized that in 10 years with John, I owned almost nothing. Every piece of jewelry, every fancy item in the house, none of it belonged to me. Only my cleaning rags were truly mine. For the first time in years, I went shopping alone. I bought clothes I loved, not what John approved of. I spent my own savings that I had kept hidden, buying everything I had denied myself for so long. When John came home, he placed a prenuptial agreement in front of me. "You've always wanted to get married, haven't you? Sign this, and we'll go register our marriage," he said, as if doing me a favor. I picked up the paper and tore it into pieces. "No need to go through all this trouble. I have no intention of marrying you," I said calmly. The next day, Emma sent me a message. "Because of your little tantrum yesterday, John transferred every single asset under his name to me. So, what if you're his wife? You get neither his money nor his love." I didn't reply. Instead, I printed 2 documents, the property transfer agreement she sent me and my abortion report. I placed them neatly on the living room table. Then I sent John one last message. "We're done." I blocked his number, his parents' numbers, and every mutual friend we had. Then I called a taxi to the airport. As the plane took off, I felt lighter than I had in 10 years. I was no longer the woman who would sacrifice everything for love. I was becoming someone new, someone free. After a long flight, I finally arrived in America. The busy streets and tall buildings felt like a fresh start. On my first day at the hospital, my new coworkers welcomed me warmly. "Dr. Sophia, we've heard so much about your work," the head doctor said, shaking my hand. "Your research papers from 10 years ago were brilliant. We couldn't believe you disappeared from medicine." I smiled, trying not to think about why I had left my career behind. "I'm just happy to be back." Within weeks, I found my rhythm again. My hands healed completely, and I could hold a scalpel without pain. Every time I saved a life, I felt more like myself, the person I was always meant to be. I rented a small apartment near the hospital. It wasn't fancy like John's mansion, but it was mine. Every piece of furniture, every decoration was chosen by me. No one could tell me what to buy or how to live. The children I treated loved me. Their parents thanked me with tears in their eyes. My co-workers respected me for my skills, not for whose girlfriend I was. At night, when I came home tired from work, I would sit on my balcony and look at the city lights. Sometimes I thought about my past life, dying alone while John and his true love lived happily. Sometimes I thought about the baby I didn't have, but those thoughts came less and less as time passed. My phone often showed missed calls from unknown numbers. I knew it was John trying to reach me with new phones. I never answered. My life was finally my own, and I wouldn't let him back into it. For the first time in years, I was living for myself. I was healing not just bodies, but my own heart too. 3 months into my new life, I was working late at the hospital when the receptionist called me. "Dr. Sophia, there's a man here insisting on seeing you. He says his name is John." My heart stopped for a moment. "Tell him I'm in surgery." But John wouldn't leave. He waited in the lobby all night and was still there when my shift ended. He looked terrible, unshaved, with dark circles under his eyes and wrinkled clothes. "Sophia," he called when he saw me. "Please, just 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I agreed to talk in the hospital cafe. "You look good," he said, staring at me. "Happy." "I am happy," I replied simply. John ran his hand through his messy hair. "My life is falling apart without you. The house is a mess. My parents won't stop calling. Emma took half my money and left." "That's not my problem," I said, stirring my coffee. his eyes filled with tears. I made a mistake. I've always loved you, not her. Please come home. I laughed. Home? That place was never my home. It was your prison. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Sophia, I'm begging you. I'll do anything. I'll sign the house over to you. I'll quit my job and follow you here. Just give me another chance. Like the chance you gave me when you burned my hand. I showed him the faint scars still visible on my skin. Or the chance you gave me when you made me clean your parents' house for years while you were with Emma. John broke down crying, causing people to stare. I was wrong. So wrong. I don't know how to live without you. As I stood to leave, he grabbed my arm. Sophia, wait. I remember our past life. I remember how you died. I've been having these dreams. I froze. What did you say? I saw it all. How I let you die. How our child treated you. How Emma took everything. That's why I came. We've been given a second chance. I gently removed his hand from my arm. No, John. I've been given a second chance. And I'm not wasting it on you again. As I walked away, I heard him collapse to the floor, sobbing. But for the first time, his tears didn't move me. 1 week after John's breakdown at the hospital, I received a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Sophia, it's John's mother. My finger hovered over the end call button, but something in her voice stopped me. John is in the hospital. He had a complete breakdown after seeing you. The doctors say it's severe depression. I closed my eyes, feeling nothing but a distant sadness. I'm sorry to hear that, but I can't help him. I'm not asking you to come back, she said, surprising me. I want to apologize. There was silence on the line. I never treated you well, she continued. I always thought you weren't good enough for my son, but now I see that he was never good enough for you. Mrs. Williams. No, let me finish. John told us everything. About Emma, about hurting your hand, about the money, and about these memories he claims to have from another life. I gripped the phone tighter. I don't understand all of it, she said, but I know my son destroyed something precious. You were the best thing in his life, and he threw it away. After we hung up, I sat on my balcony looking at the stars. I thought about how much I had changed in just a few months. The old Sophia would have rushed back to John, forgiven everything, and fallen back into the same trap. The next day, I received a package. Inside was a familiar ceramic mug, the one Emma had broken, carefully glued back together. With it was a note in John's handwriting. Some things once broken can never be the same again. I understand that now. I placed the mug on my shelf, not as a reminder of John, but as a symbol of my own journey, broken but made whole again in a different way. 3 years later, I became the youngest head of pediatric surgery at my hospital. My research on childhood diseases won international recognition. I bought my own house, smaller than John's mansion, but filled with warmth and light. Sometimes I think about my past life and how differently things turned out this time. I chose myself, my dreams, my future, and in doing so, I found something better than the love I had desperately sought from John. I found peace. As for John, I heard he eventually recovered and moved away. Emma married someone else. His parents sold their big house. Our paths never crossed again. And that's exactly how it should be.